Good evening, friends. I want to thank you for tuning in with us. I hope you have been having a blessed and safe evening. It's unfortunate, it seems to be, that we've had quite a bit of bad weather coming in and out on the past few Wednesday nights, but I just hope you're staying safe, and I hope you'll take up some kind of Bible study this evening. If you've not had a chance to watch it, I posted an excellent video from Johnny Ramsey a while back. It's on our Facebook page where he gives an overview of the book of Acts. That's an excellent video, excellent study to continue what we've been doing in the book of Acts. But I just wanted to come to you, bring you a little devotional thought from the evening. The thought that I've got for you this evening, it comes from my daily studies of what happened today in history, and one that was interesting to me, and perhaps this was because of a recent discussion with one of our members. She was talking about how beautiful the course was at the Masters and how you can see God's handiwork in all those flowers. Well, it just so happens that it was on this day in 1997 that Tiger Woods won his first green jacket. That was at the age of 21 years old. And for about 12 years after that, Woods would remain on top of the golfing world, and in the eyes of many, on top of the world as that goes. But unfortunately for him, there were some bad decisions in his personal life that began in a spiral that really, in my eyes, it started his downfall. Those were related to some marital problems that he was having. And this is how an article that I read on the subject goes. It says there had been reports in the National Enquirer days earlier that Woods had engaged in an affair with a New York nightclub manager. But tabloid headlines about his troubles really took off when he pulled out of the driveway of his Orlando area home at 2:30 in the morning of November the 27th, 2009. He steered his 2009 Cadillac Escalade into the hedges and a tree in the neighbor's yard before crashing into a fire hydrant, dealing serious damage to the front of the SUV. The collision was loud enough to wake up his wife, Ellen Nordgren, who came running out of the house. She was able to break out the back window of the SUV with a golf club, dragged her husband into the street, then sat with him as he drifted in and out of consciousness, mouth bloodied, wrapped in blankets provided by neighbors. One of those neighbors was Jarius Adams, who called 911 at Nordgren's request. The Florida Highway Patrol reached the house in about 10 minutes. He was mumbling, but didn't say anything coherent, Windermere Police Chief Daniel Saylor told the Associated Press at the time. There was no alcohol involved in the crash, but Woods had taken prescription Vicodin painkillers earlier that night, as Nordgren told police. His injuries were described as serious in the police report, which also noted that he had been unconscious for about 6 minutes after the crash. Woods was ultimately issued a citation for careless driving and fined $164. That was going to be the least of his problems. Woods' hiatus from golf did not last long, with him returning to the links for the Masters in March of 2010. He was never quite the same after the scandal, in part due to years of back troubles and multiple surgeries. The 2019 Masters is the only major win after this accident. As I think about Tiger Woods and the things that went on in his life and how some of those things went wrong for him and how other decisions may have changed who he was or what he was or how he was viewed or maybe how many tournaments he was going to win. But he's not the only one to fall victim to bad decisions in their personal lives, bad decisions with their families, with their wives, and things of this nature. One other such man that comes to mind to me was Mike Tyson. Now, there's all kinds of debate about who the greatest was of all time. Names come up such like George Foreman or Muhammad Ali, and perhaps you've got to measure such a thing over a long career and how they were able to hold up over the years. And if you do that, it changes the complexion of things. But as I look back and I think about Mike Tyson and what I saw of him when I was young, he was unbelievable. I don't believe there was anyone that had power like he did. And in fact, I believe that when he was at his finest and when he was at his best, I don't believe there was anyone, or that anyone ever has been, that could have beaten him. Unfortunately for him, much like Woods, he made bad decisions in his life that tore his life apart, allowed himself to lose to Buster Douglas, a thing that was thought to be unthinkable at the time, a person that he pretty much overlooked. But his downfall related to those bad decisions in his life. Now, those men are just to name a couple, but we also see men that made decisions like this in the Bible. That's, I think, one of the proofs of the Bible, that the Bible shows that its characters were flawed and that they made mistakes. if we were going to try to make up a book like the Bible for ourselves, I don't think we'd put those kind of mistakes in there. We would put all the good things in there. But the Bible does record those things, and in fact, in times, it's about some of the most flamboyant and some of the best characters. For instance, the great King David. But do you remember that affair that he had with Bathsheba and all the things that happened after that? Now, when Nathan came to him and called him out on it, it is true that God forgave David. However, he lived with the scars of that affair for the rest of his life. In fact, problems within his family would arise from these things with the various sons and things of that nature. So he had problems from that he had to deal with for many years to come. Now, Ahab's another one that comes to mind, and you may think, well, we know he was a bad king, but I have to wonder sometimes. I see glimmers of hope in him as I look at his story. In fact, at one point, his life was going to be taken from him, and he prayed, and things came out a little bit better for him. But I think about that verse that talks about him marrying Jezebel. She was the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and how it was that soon after that he also took up worshiping Baal. But perhaps the most striking verse is in 1 Kings chapter 21 and verse 25. It says, "But there was no one like Ahab who sold himself to do wickedness in the sight of the Lord, because Jezebel his wife stirred him up." I want you to imagine for a moment if he had married a woman that would stir him up to do good. Friends, there's no telling how the outcome for Ahab might have been. We'll never know, because that was not the choice he made. He married someone that was forbidden. They were not supposed to marry outside of their own religion, because God knew that there would be the danger that people would be pulled away to worshiping those other gods. Solomon, what did he do? Something very similar. Married the daughter of the king of Egypt, and then after that, many other foreign wives, of whom he built altars to all their false gods, and that would be the beginning of the end, really, for Israel, because after Solomon, the king was divided, and it was only downhill from there. So many great Bible men made mistakes like that, and again, I think that's some of the proof of the Bible, that we can look and we can see that everyone that's come before us, everyone has made mistakes, but we can also see good examples and how they turn out from following those good examples. On Wednesday nights, we've been studying in the book of Acts, and one of the things that I see was after Peter preached that sermon on the day of Pentecost, and people were joined together with that wonderful cause of Christ, they took up worshiping together, joining together on a regular basis. They were influencing each other in a good way. In fact, in one of those passages we read like this, it's found in Acts chapter 4, toward the end of that chapter, beginning in verse 32. The Bible says, "Now the multitude of those who believed were of one heart and one soul. Neither did anyone say that any of the things he possessed was his own, but they had all things in common. And with great power the apostles gave witness to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and great grace was upon them all. Nor was there anyone among them who lacked. For all who were possessors of lands or houses sold them and brought the proceeds of the things that they were sold and laid them at the feet of the apostles, and they distributed to each one as anyone had need." So what an amazing thing we see here. People taking their goods, selling it to make sure that others had some measure of equality and that everyone had the things that were needed. That must have been such an uplifting time. Friends, if you want to get to heaven, I suggest that you take the example of the people in the book of Acts, that you surround yourself whenever you have a chance with people that are going to be like-minded, that are working toward that same goal of reaching that ultimate home in heaven. That's the best way that you can get there. People in the financial world do this kind of thing. They want to make $1 million or $100 million or reach some kind of goal. They're going to surround themselves with people that are going to help them to reach that goal. And I suggest that we as Christians be careful not to be, as Paul warns, unequally yoked together with unbelievers, but we surround ourselves with like-minded people, Christians that are going to try to help us reach that home in heaven one day. Friends, I hope you'll take this with you, that it'll be a blessing to you, that you'll be careful about the decisions you make in your personal lives with who you surround yourself with. Also hope you know that if you ever have any need, something you need to speak about, someone who needs to obey the gospel, feel free to reach out to me or one of the elders. We'll do our best to try to help you out. We'll come to the building in the middle of the night if that's what needs to happen. Thank you once again, and I pray that you have a blessed evening.